Welcome to the DGD podcast. As always, Robert Reynolds, Kobe Pierce, and Juan Daniels. Jay has been suspended from the chat already. We ain't even got started yet. Coming in hot with a hot take for his score prediction. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Today's show is going to be jam packed. I'm just going to leave it there. We're obviously listen. It's Tennessee week. College football playoff rankings come out. We'll talk about that. Listen, it's going to be a massive, massive weekend in Athens, folks. Game day is going to be ridiculous. We're going to preview the Georgia Tennessee matchup. Also, talk a little bit of recruiting because anybody and everybody will be there in Athens. And then we'll also give you our Week 10 DGD CFB picks of the week. First off, the show is brought to you by BetUS. BetUS. Listen, go to our website, dgdpodcast.com. Click on the BetUS logo. Use code DGD125 when you make your first deposit, and you'll get a 125% sign-up bonus for all sports, not just college football, all sports. Perfect time of the year. NBA, World Series is about to wrap up. We're not going to talk about those damn Phillies, but you know what I'm talking about. Perfect time of the year. NFL, you name it. Do yourself a favor, take advantage, get 125%, and start raking up some money. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this. College football playoff rankings come out last night. I don't know how shocked you may be, but Georgia comes in at third. You got Tennessee number one, Ohio State stays put at two, Georgia at three, and then Clemson over Michigan. Surprisingly, Clemson holds the four spot down. Juan, I want to ask your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on Georgia being third in the initial rankings?
I'll quote Todd Monken. It doesn't even really matter. If we're being honest, if you were to match up Georgia against any of these other teams, Ohio, especially Ohio State, Georgia runs Ohio State out of the building, and everybody knows that. So it's really not that big a deal. I think that the setup for Georgia, Tennessee to have it just, to be that big, I'd rather be number three, because after this decisive win on Saturday, we're going to leapfrog Ohio State. It doesn't matter.
Kobe, what are your thoughts, my man?
I think that there are some fun statistics about it. Like they show on the show last night, like out of the top four, at least one or two of them always ends up making it. But I think right now the big what you should be more mad about right now than Tennessee at 1 and the Dogs at 3 is the fact that this playoff committee, time and time again, year after year, and this year's no different, counts Penn State as a massive win. I mean, they said it in both Michigan and Ohio State's ranking that their wins against Penn State were decisive in where they ranked. And it's like, at some point when you're looking at these teams and you're looking at Penn State and everything that they've done there, it's like those are, maybe not cakewalk games, but I mean games that I expect Ohio State and Michigan to win. So we'll see. I think it, as a fan base, it gets you fired up. As a player, you see it, but I think you're as fired up today as you were yesterday. Like, you're getting to play Tennessee. You already thought it was going to be 1 versus 2. Now you're on the other end of 1 versus 3. I mean, it gives you a good chance to prove that you're still the team to beat in the East.
Dog fans, keep this in mind. The number 3 spot is a perfect spot for you, and for one reason and one reason only. Look at where Georgia's been when it comes to the actual playoffs, and you've done your most damage. The 3 spot. You're in the right spot, but you still have to take care of business this week. And I'm telling you right now, I don't care what anyone tells you. I'm telling you right now, that 3rd spot in the rankings, you know good and damn well that people are going to be sitting there, especially in the building, feel disrespected. They're going to use that as motivation, added motivation already. And to me, I think that's going to be quite interesting to see how things play out. Got a Clemson fan in here. Oregon wins by Oregon win by UGA plus the Ducks better than the Lions. The JOGG is in here. Pat, the 63-3 DGD is in here. Obviously, we have our Bishop Don waiting for the other folks to pop in, but so far, listen, there's a lot to talk about. So trust me, this it's going to be hot and heavy all show. With that being said, right, you have 1 versus 3, 1 versus 2, however you want to look at it. Whether you look at AP poll or right the college football playoff rankings, I'm just saying that regardless of the fact, this is going to be the biggest game in Sanford Stadium history. It's so far, right? We'll see what happens come game day, but there's no reason to believe that it won't, because we saw in recent memory, if that reminds me correctly, Arkansas last year was ridiculously loud at a noon kickoff because it was a top 10 matchup. Notre Dame in 2019, Kobe, you were there. That rings a bell with me. That even a night game was just ridiculous. The thing I think is going to be interesting is it's a rival game. They're number one in the country. You're number three. There's not just that. There's not just replication or ramifications for Saturday. It's all the way into the playoffs that you got to be careful for. Right? There's that much at stake here, and it's 3:30. I wish this was a night game because that would just be over the top. It would be ridiculous. You talk about a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fans. Give them a night game for that. Holy shit, is all I would be able to say. You couldn't say anything else. You might not even hear yourself think. It might create an earthquake. Just going to leave that there. Now, with that being said, we expect this game to be ridiculous. And Kirby and Coach Kirby has also called on the fans already to be loud. Talking about excuse me. Ainge went on Twitter and was basically talking about how playing between the hedges was overrated. It's not that loud. Tennessee's going to be fine. And to that, I defend that by saying this: you weren't playing a team coached by Kirby Smart back in 07. You weren't. So a lot of things have changed between the hedges since then, and a lot of it starts with Kirby Smart. We have to take that and what it means. So, my thoughts are I don't think that's an accurate statement. I'm not saying that they might or may not be fine, but let's be honest. Tennessee is a heavily penalized team, and going to a hostile environment, don't sell that the fact that that's not going to be a hostile environment. It will be, 100% will be. If we saw what happened with Arkansas last year with all the false starts, keep that in mind is all I'm going to say, because it can either happen or not, but it's there. The possibility for that is there.
Well, I think the thing that gets overlooked is, I was reading something that Tennessee's played 6 of their first 8 games at home, and they're still averaging like 8 penalties a game for like 78 yards a game. I mean, you put them in a hostile environment. I think everybody looks at the Bama game and goes, Tennessee doesn't get penalized that often. It's like Alabama had 16 of them, and it's almost the one game that it got kind of overshadowed. But don't think if you'd have played that game in Bama, or no different than like you're going to play this game in Athens, that the crowd isn't going to impact your penalties. Like, I mean, they will go up.
I mean, it's definitely something worth monitoring. And Jay Jacobs here says that penalties mostly on the defensive side, though. So, that's also something to keep in mind, right? Like, you would expect false starts. But I think, Jay, what also we have to take into play here is that the biggest games that Tennessee's played this year were at home, right? The Bama game is, I think, the biggest at home, right? And so you have the crowd control, a little bit more crowd control, I should say, at home. However, it's still right. Like, you have to worry about penalties. Period. Is that a part of is the penalties defensively? Is that attributed to secondary play, right? DPIs. Is that an offsides penalty, right? We don't know. It can be whatever. But I do think, and I don't care what anyone says, that the crowd can play and probably will play a role in this game Saturday. I mean, what are your thoughts, Juan? You've played in these kind of games before. Yeah, both of y'all have. How much is crowd a factor in a game of somewhat like this magnitude right here?
Oh, it's a huge factor. I remember, going to Tennessee in '95, playing against Peyton Manning, and how that whole week, they played Rocky Top at our practice. I mean, it was this crowd noise. We could not talk to each other. Everything was basically sign language. And then when you get there, it was deafening. I mean, and it was, it was hard to communicate. And then, of course, they make one play and it could be a 3-yard gain. And you would have thought that, they just, won on a Hail Mary. It can be insane. So Tennessee can expect that. I don't think that they've been to a place that's had this type of crowd noise, historically. So it's going to be insane. They remember what happened in Athens on that Hail Mary pass, not too long ago. So they're going to be rabid. They're going to be crazy. And, I do want to argue with you. You said that this is probably historically the biggest game, but I think in 1995, when we played New Mexico State and we won 43-10, that was a monumental game. Probably the best game in Sanford Stadium history. Let me tell it. So,
I mean, I was surprised you didn't say like the 1980 Sugar Bowl or nothing like that.
Stat check.
Oh, we got a stat check.
Let's get a stat check on that game.
Yes, sir.
But no, in all seriousness, though, right? Like, obviously, this game's got some key factors here. But Georgia's, all week, and I think most of the few weeks really past this, the attention has been on Georgia's defense stopping Tennessee's offense and even the passing attack. And I feel like it's deeper than that, right? I think it kind of needs to be switched around a little bit. People push it under the radar that Georgia has a very efficient offense. And if I told you that Georgia passes more than Tennessee and Tennessee runs more than Georgia, I guarantee you most of you would be shocked. You would be bamboozled, but that is the case. So my thought is, it's not Georgia stopping the pass game. I think Georgia has to stop the run game first. But I think the main topic should be flipped a little bit. Can Tennessee's defense slow down Georgia's offense? I understand the logic on the Tennessee because it's the two strengths. However, Tennessee's defense is still very below average on a lot of defensive categories, where Georgia's defense is balanced somewhat with the offense toward the top of the country, for that matter. And you're playing at home. So I think, a lot of people need to focus on the fact that Tennessee's defense has still got to go out there and stop Georgia's offense. But I want to go ahead and start to this. I want to talk about the keys to victory, right? Prior to this, though, obviously Nolan Smith injury news broke out, and he is out for the season with a pec injury. And that just threw a curveball at the defensive game planning for Georgia for the remainder of the season. But it's just the timing is rough when you have a player like Nolan go out for the season. Now, obviously I think one of the keys to victory is how to adjust to that loss, because you're going to have somebody to replicate some of his production and leadership. Can you do that? So I want to ask Kobe first. I'm going to ask Kobe first, and then Juan, I'm going to let you take over. What is your key? What is Georgia's keys to victory Saturday in Athens?
I think taking away the first read will be a big thing. I think that's a big reason, like Jay said earlier. A lot of their penalties are on defense because a lot of their plays and reads are like first look reads. So even if he fakes the handoff, he has one guy that he's looking at immediately to make that quick throw, get that 4 or 5 yards, kind of get that rolling. All of a sudden, like we've talked about, like old Oregon, you stop that, and all of a sudden, all those receivers have to run back to the original line of scrimmage. They have to signal in another play. They have to re-get set, and now it's 2nd and 10. And you just slowly keep them behind where they want to be. They want to be, like a lot of teams, they want to be 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4. That way they can take that chunk shot play on, 2nd and short to try to burn you, but then still have a manageable 3rd down. And they may try to do that running the ball. Like we've seen against Alabama, they had great success running the ball. Especially, it's almost like the more the pass works, the more all of a sudden then they're starting to run the ball, and then you swap your mindset and you try to stop the run, and then they're throwing the ball over the top of you again. So the big thing will be, like Kirby always tries to do, limit one or the other. So if you can limit their running and just worry about their passing, then that's how he's kind of had a chokehold on a lot of teams in the past. Where you've struggled is where teams can do either any time against you. I think a big thing is as we look forward, even on our picks, is Kirby's 1-9 against teams that score over like 34 against. So it'll be the kind of game that you could see them score 30. How will we respond offensively is an important part too.
Miriam brings up a good point here. Obviously, we talked about Nolan Smith. She says that Bill will play well. He was our sack leader last season, which is true. Ended up leading the team in sacks. Only played part of the season. Nolan will be missed, but we have several guys who could come in. Bill, most importantly. I think I'm just letting you know now. I agree with that, and I also think you're going to need more of a platoon and all of these guys to be effective. I think you look at Mykel Williams. When you're one-on-ones, you're going to need Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter coming back is huge for this defensive line because, Kobe, you pointed this out that, they're going to basically give what they're going to take what you give them. If you try to stop their pass, they're going to run it down your throat, vice versa. So Georgia has to win their one-on-one there and expect to do everything and stop everything, right? Just going to leave that there. Apparently here is a stat while we transition a little bit. On October 21st, 1922, Juan and the Dogs beat Floppy Socks 7-3 in Athens. Juan scored all 10 points and coached. My God, that's better than a Nealon. That's better than anything General Nealon could propose and do.
It was a great day, and then right from there, I went to the war. It was a great day.
Well, luckily, we were in the booming 20s, man. We were in the roaring 20s. So I think you had flashbacks at that point, apparently.
Yeah. My keys to victory are offensively. Stetson has to take care of the football. Tennessee, statistically, has a great run defense, so they're going to try to stuff the run. That's going to be their most important thing. And then so now we have to put it in the hands of Stetson Bennett. What is he going to do with the football? So he has to take care of the football. The key to victory on defense is to corral Hyatt. Hyatt is last year's Jamison Williams, who absolutely just destroyed us in that SEC championship game. So he's that type of caliber of a receiver. So we just have to find a way to corral him, slow him down, and I think that we'll be fine after that.
I think to add to that, right? I think the main focus. I'm not going to say it's the only focus because there's a lot, like I said, but I think you have to stop the run or limit the run with 5 or at most 6. You probably will see 5. Like I said, it all stems back to winning your one-on-ones because you're probably going to see Georgia do a lot of dime to limit those, deep passes and things like that. I'm expecting Kirby to play back further and say, you know what, you're not getting behind us. Go ahead and throw that little drop down stuff, and we trust our tackling in space. I think that's what's got to happen. Keep them in front of you. We saw what happened with Alabama. It was still shocking to me right now that I didn't see hardly any adjustments, right, from Alabama. They kept doing their same thing, and they kept getting burnt and get burnt. But one thing that I think went overlooked in the Alabama game was they weren't stopping the run as well as they could have either, because they were running the ball effectively, putting Tennessee in second and manageable, things like that. But also
they stretched out Will Anderson. They almost dropped Will Anderson into coverage, and if you do that, then you're going to have a tough time stopping the run. So,
yeah,
Alabama defensively, we're not really sure what their strategy was, but you can best believe Kirby's not going to do that.
No, I think you're 100% right.
And just to take a strategy from our friends over in Alabama, if you want to call them that. I think you're kind of at the point where I almost kind of like in the national championship game, SC championship game, the past few times we've played them, even is take the 15-yard, you know, defensive pass interference. Don't give up the touchdown. Like if Hyatt has you beat, grab him. Like I just hate to say that, but at some point, like live to play another down. Don't let him go 80 behind you, Keely Ringo. Grab him, pull him to the ground, give them their 15, and we'll get them next time. I mean, that's what they've done at Alabama for so long. I mean, you look at like Kool-Aid McKinstry over there. He did that to Burton last year in the Natty. They've done it to people in the SC championship game. It's part of what Saban teaches in that bend, don't break. And they got exposed when they played Tennessee too.
I'm just gonna let y'all know right now. The brigade is coming in hot and heavy. Apparently, a fun fact about that 1922 game: the game was supposed to be on the 20th, but Coach Daniels was getting his bald head waxed at the time, so they changed the game for him. By the way,
And that's
Miriam.
because if you look good, you play good, you coach good. That's everybody knows that.
So we're going prime time before prime time. Got it.
Hey, I wanted to say real quick. We have a Facebook user that says if Kirby plays that deep zone like you just said, we'll lose that game. We've lost every game that Kirby's used that defense. It's the people that are scary are the Hyatts. So he can catch a pass in front of that zone, make 2 or 3 guys miss, and then take that thing to the house. So I really think that you should, we have to double him. We just have a guy just jamming him from the line of scrimmage, just harassing him pretty much the whole game. We take him out. I mean, that takes a lot out of Hooker. Now he's got to go and look to other places, and that's going to put a lot of stress on him.
You have to look at, so obviously what Kirby and the defense did last year, right? It's not the same personnel. We get that. We're not going to even come close to making this assessment about this being the same defense. But here's some things that I think we need to, and I'm going to pinpoint them out here. One, substitutions are going to be key, but how you do it will be key as well. Because last year, when, the tempo, you're unable to really substitute. So what Kirby did, and it was a brilliant idea, when Tennessee subbed, everybody else from Georgia subbed. And when they did, there was no ounce of effort to hustle on. They took their time. And what that did, I thought was brilliant. It was brilliant. Also, limit turnovers. Stetson, be careful with the ball. We know Tennessee's defense has a tendency, right? We see the stats, but don't act like you can't sit there and give the ball away because you're being careless. You cannot do that. The more opportunities you give that offense for Tennessee, the worse it is for Georgia's chances to win that game. Be smart with the ball. Sustain drives. One thing that I don't know if y'all noticed about this, Juan, Kobe, if you watch the Tennessee-Kentucky game, one thing that kind of has me could scratch my head a little bit and concerned, you're not seeing Tennessee just throw 3 plays and score. They had a 15-play drive and ate up about 4 or 5 minutes of clock. 15-play drive went down and ended up doing that, right? That's something that you have to be mindful of as well. Because
and the other thing too is, again, Kentucky has a very, very, very good running game, and they pretty much shut that running game down. So again, just like you said, when I said earlier that we have to protect the ball. I mean, Stetson has to do a great job. And also, I wanted to let you guys know that Ed has now officially been suspended from the chat.
Apparently, Ruth thinks that I'm just saying, Ruth says he sees one person who's getting cold from Santa Claus. He might be right.
Yeah, Ed's getting cold.
Listen, in all seriousness, though, seeing the Vols by 20 thing, it brings up an interesting point for me. The line on this, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. The line for me is interesting because I think as it stands right now, it might still be 8.5. That's a lot of damn points for what we're thinking this could be. It's what we could be. So I think that's interesting, and we'll talk more about that in our picks later. But keep that in mind. That's something that you might want to keep in mind because I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I could also see it being a game. Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
have something else you should keep in mind. There's a 55% chance of rain on Saturday between the hours of 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Not sure if that matters to anybody, but hard to throw
Back
in
to
the
you.
run in the rain.
All right. I'm Fred Sanford. Back to you, Juan.
Well, it's not fun for receivers. I hate rain. I hate playing in the rain. It's not fun for quarterbacks either, trying to throw that ball around. So I think that actually goes to Georgia's favor.
I don't know. Like I said, I mean, it may, but keep in mind, Tennessee is running the ball more than us, and it's not like they're not running the ball effectively either. So there's some things that, listen, Georgia will have to stop the run. That's our MO. We know this. But I don't think it's going to be super easy to do that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got a challenge on your hands, and I'm okay with that. Georgia's built for games like this, where you have a lot at stake. Right? I think that's the championship mentality. We've been here before. I'm just saying, keep it in mind that you have to be sound defensively, and you have to do everything right. You have to come in and play your A game. And Georgia can come away with a win. I'm not saying they won't, but don't say, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Tennessee has no chance, because they most certainly have a chance to win this game if they can catch Georgia not doing their, playing their A game. It's that simple. It's that simple.
I've got a small sidebar for the brigade and y'all. Do you think that expansion of the playoffs really is going to just take away from games like this in the future? I mean, like, we're looking at it right now. We're talking about dogs win, odds are you're into the playoffs. Vols win, odds are you're into the playoffs. But in 2 years, it's either of you lose, and you're probably still in the playoffs too. Probably going to have to play each other again at some point. Just interesting that this game is so important in Athens this week. But in 2 or 3 years, it's like, yeah, it's a big game, but is it in the world if whoever loses? Not really.
That's an excellent question, because the whole expansion, it literally you could run a podcast off of just talking playoff expansion. You just could almost, like, it's that interesting. I think the thing though is I see the logic of it diminishing the importance, because right now, think about it. Think about this: if this game was being played with the BCS model, and both were 1-2, right? We had that instance happen. Think about this: we had it happen in 2009 with LSU and Bama being 1-2. Excellent game, field goal bowl, but whatever it was still 9-6. They came back and both the teams played in the national title game. In the playoffs, if whoever loses this game is obviously on the outside looking in, and there's some real questions there if you're going to be able, because you don't control your destiny at that point. You have to hope that a Michigan loses. You have to hope that a Bama can even slip up if you don't fall ahead of that, right? There's just so many other factors, but I think I'm with you though. I think it might diminish it, and I hope not. I really hope not. Juan, what do you think?
I don't think it'll diminish it. What it does, and this is just for me, is there are times where teams at the end of the year, they get hot. And unfortunately, they've lost a game or two that they shouldn't have lost. If you take that 2007 Georgia team, and if they were in the expansion playoffs, there's not a team on this planet that would have beat that team once they got hot. And obviously, they went and punished Hawaii for that. But you got a Stafford, you've got a Noshan Marino, and again, they lost off of some bad play calling, honestly, in that SEC championship. But whoever wins that SEC championship wins the national championship, because you go on and smack Notre Dame right in the mouth. But I'm telling you right now, that team right there, that 2007 team, if there was an expansion, they win the national championship. Hands down. They were hot at the end.
Yeah, Georgia 2007 was the hottest team that just didn't get the chance to make it.
Yeah, and so that's what the expansion playoff is going to do. There's going to be some teams at the end that may just get hot, and who knows, they're going to end up upsetting somebody, or just catching somebody on a bad day. So
I see Ed here. Obviously, we welcome any and all questions for the most part. Ed says that he thinks Georgia's defense was better last year. What are our thoughts? I think there's really no question, right? It's so I don't even really want to compare that. Yes, I do think they were better last year. They were also because you don't have the leadership that you had. You had a senior Jordan Davis. You had Nakobe Dean as a junior. But even with that, even with that drop off in experience, the talent is still there. You look at leaders molding themselves right now. Pop Johnson, right? Jamon Dumas Johnson. You're looking at guys, make it like emerging, right? You look at emerging players. Bear Alexander. You still have Jalen Carter. Bear Alexander stepped up. You've looked at guys like Jalen Walker. I think Jalen Walker might be somebody. Malachi Starks in the secondary. It's not to say it's hard to really compare. And yes, I think Georgia's defense was better last year. However, to Pat's point here, you know, I don't think the drop off isn't there that we thought how much it would drop off. I don't think you saw that. Do y'all have any comment on that question?
I'll be able to tell you a little bit more after Saturday, because I'm looking here, and we beat Tennessee 41-17, and they had that fast break offense with Hendon Hooker, and they were and they struck us in that first couple of drives, but after that we absolutely put the clamps down on them.
And they threw the ball.
That defense last year was just.
And they threw the ball with success from 20 to 20. I mean, Cedric Tillman had like 200 yards receiving.
He dropped 200 plus on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like we stopped them from being the offense they are. We just stopped them from scoring.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll definitely be able to tell a little bit more tomorrow, because again, you can't necessarily base it off of a first game against Oregon, even though they are scoring a lot of points. We just hadn't played anybody that's high octane offense to see where we truly are defensively, and now we're about to see that.
Absolutely. So with that being said, let's hop over to our Week 10 picks. But what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, and on the flip side, we're going to do our obviously break down our picks. So stick around. All right, folks, it is Week 10, and our Week 10 DGD CFB picks are here. We're going to bring out the standings real quick from Week 9. The Brigade went 7-3, standing at 62-28 for the season. They are one game off of Juan to Claus at a 69% hit rate. Kobe made some ground going 9-1 last week, 60-30 on the year with a clean 67%. 3 games back. Juan obviously went 7-3. He is standing at 63-27, 70% hit. He is the leader, and I am in dead last. 6 games or 6 picks back. I went 7-3, however, but apparently I just ain't making no ground. I'm at 57-33, 63% hit. 63 rings a bell though, so I'll take that. I'll stick around for that. But oh man, you know what though? I wanted to shit on Adonis's picks, but he
was 9-1 too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was spot on. That closet Florida fan, he was spot on.
Yeah,
calling him out here. Let's see if he shows up. You might let Candyman come back in the chat. So we're seeing some comments here. This is interesting. Tennessee hasn't played anyone with a great defense like ours either. Miriam says, listen, there's a lot of 2019 talk, LSU talk here. I ain't going to be the one to say that. But after Saturday, a lot of questions are going to be answered. So just saying. Yeah, see, listen, I might be dead last. I might have 63%, but at least I got somebody that digs my winning percentage. Thank you, Pat. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Has now been officially suspended.
Ooh, that's painful. Anyways, let's go ahead and break into these first. What? Come on, you can't be doing that. Juan suspending everybody. Block. Suspend. All right, first matchup. Wake Forest and NC State. ACC matchup here. Both are ranked. College football playoff has them at like 20 and 21 or something like that, or 21 and 22. I don't remember. I think it'll be an interesting matchup, in-state rivalry here. Kobe, who do you got?
Yep, like you said, 21 versus 22. They're both not great. Juan did a lot of convincing on us yesterday or Monday about, that NC State's new quarterback is a pretty good player, but I'm riding with Wake Forest this week. Time will tell how good of a take that was. I mean, Wake has been really up and down. It's hard to believe that they're a team that took Clemson to overtime, but I think they get done against the Wolfpack this week.
Juan, who do you have, my man?
I'm going with Wake. I know. I mean, they really struggled against Louisville. I don't expect them to turn the ball over, 5 times in the second half like they did. I think that they bounced back. They got a great quarterback, so I got Wake Forest in this game.
Listen, I'm going with the Brigade here on this one. Me and the Brigade are sticking true, and they're 2 in the Wolfpack. 65% of it, however, has NC State. Listen, they may be without Devin Leary, but MJ Morris at quarterback, I think, adds an added dimension that could help NC State overcome the loss of their starting quarterback. And let's be honest, Wake Forest's defense, it's like the Great Depression. Like nothing's there. It's nothing. It's just a bunch of dust. That is just that simple. Just that simple. So give me NC State. Oh boy. Next matchup, and we're staying in the ACC. Gotta go give a shout out to Black Adonis on this one. I wish he was here for this. Probably sitting there sweating, thinking about this. With that being said, though, Miami Wolf was so far through the season. Florida State has been fairly well so far this season. But rivalry games, listen, anything can happen in a rivalry game. So with that being said, Kobe, who do you got in this one?
Not this week. I got Florida State. Miami came in clutch last week in the pick'ems and the overtime win to beat Virginia.
Still pissed off about that.
But did you hear what I just said? Took them to overtime to beat Virginia. I don't think they scored an offensive touchdown the whole game.
There was no touchdown in that game whatsoever.
Give me the Noles to beat the hell out of the Hurricanes.
So basically,
I'm with you. Give me the Noles too. Hurricanes are terrible this year. They're awful. Virginia's awful.
But he was back though, right?
Vandy could beat Miami.
Yeah,
that's how bad they are.
They're bad.
Damn, that's some shade. I don't know if that's shade or props to the SEC. Listen, there ain't no damn question about this, man. If Florida State does the unthinkable and slips up in this game and lets Miami win, first off, I'm going to be pissed because the Miami fans will talk shit for the rest of the season about this when they shouldn't have any room to talk. 100% of the Brigade, clean sweep Florida State on the road. Listen, Florida State fans will probably run that stadium in all seriousness. I think that could very well be the case. Give me the Noles. Give me the Noles. Moving over to the Big 12, Baylor, Oklahoma. Preseason, this game was one of the games of the year potentially. Things have fizzled out, though. However, I think it's still a good matchup. Kobe, who you got in this one?
Yeah, I definitely think it's still a good matchup. We kind of talked about it earlier that it's one of those games this week that kind of, had to do some thinking about, kind of a little back and forth. I know that our picks aren't necessarily going to reflect that, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma gives a good fight. I just don't think it's going to be enough to beat Baylor. So give me the Bears.
Yeah, I'll take Baylor too. Oklahoma is just not very good this year. It'll probably take them a couple of years to get into the groove, but just not this year. Baylor.
Listen, I'm just going to say this. Oklahoma could very well – I think this game is literally a coin flip at this point because, we saw Oklahoma struggle We have. It's been documented. However, that game where they got obliterated by TCU is looking more and more like a common occurrence for TCU just blowing out everybody than Oklahoma playing as bad as they did. However, with that being said, I have to, for the sake of this, I have to go Baylor until proven otherwise. But it will not shock me if Oklahoma were to pull off a win in Norman. I'm just saying. 67%, however, choose of the brigade choose Baylor over Oklahoma as well. Y'all ready for a big time matchup? I think this possibly could be a huge matchup. We'll see how it feels, but nonetheless, those Taters travel to see the Catholics. Are they going to repent for their sins? Father, I have committed a sin. We shall see. We'll let Kobe go first. Kobe, who you got in this one?
Clemson. I just can't pick a team that lost to Marshall this year. I don't care. Just how it is.
Well then.
Yeah. I'll say the same thing. I'm going to say Clemson. I can't pick a team that lost to Stanford this year.
Damn. I guess I'm going to go Clemson because I can't see anybody losing to Ohio State.
Yeah, that was definitely some funny fire. I wanted to point out real quick, and I don't know who the Facebook user is, but he has basically been picking the same picks that I have picked. So I think that whoever it is, they're very, very smart, and I'm impressed.
Listen, hold on. Checking on the nice list.
I'm
checking
impressed.
it. He's impressed. Look at that. You listen. You see that wisdom right there? There's a lot of fucking wisdom to see right there. So keep that in mind. Just gonna leave it there. Now, give me Clemson, man. Listen, Notre Dame has kind of been a changed team, though. As weird as it sounds, I just don't think it's enough, even at home, to overcome what Clemson's going to do there. Could it be close? Maybe. I mean, Syracuse. We thought Syracuse was going to be a problem. Turned out that it was a problem. Klubnik comes in and keeps Clemson undefeated. I just think, and 60% of the brigade thinks this as well. I think Clemson just overpowers Notre Dame in year one of Freeman era. Simple as that.
So we find out Facebook user is Chad. So Chad is a smart man.
There we go. I mean, listen, Pat calls out stat check here. Chad is 4 letters. Juan is 4 letters. Just saying.
Yep. Goat is 4 letters.
Coincidence? I think not.
All part of the plan.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving over to our SEC slate. I'm just saying it's wild to see 6 games. I love it. First off, we'll get the ugly one out here. South Carolina, folks. What happened? Damn, y'all were 25th, and you literally got your nice little present. You like a 4-year-old, man. Sit there getting something nice and then immediately fuck it up. So South Carolina takes on Vanderbilt. South Carolina, I thought I had hopes for y'all, man. I knew y'all were doing well. I knew they were doing well. They were doing well after they lost to us. Going undefeated, beating A&M, all that stuff. Got over the hump there. But then they let up, and Missouri just waxes them at home unexpectedly for my thought. But Satterfield, I don't know what you're doing, dude. I don't know why you're on borrowed time. With that being said, though, Kobe, who do you got in this game?
Remember earlier in the show I told you Vanderbilt could beat Miami? Well, South Carolina could beat Vanderbilt, who could beat Miami, who I guess can lose to Missouri. But I think South Carolina wins this game. I think they kind of bounced back. They sleptwalked, ran into whatever they ran into. Maybe they all had the flu last week against Missouri. Who knows? But I think they take care of Vandy.
Juan.
Hey, I'm going with Chad. I'm going with USC Junior.
Wait, so question. Hold on. I need to ask this question. Juan, if you're going with him, does that mean he's smart and you're just following along?
You know what? Hey, birds of a feather. I think we've got the same pick, so that's what I'm going with.
Now, Ed asked, did he hear someone wishing for rain for this week's game? No. Kobe actually said that there's a chance of rain. So we kind of talked a little bit briefly on what that could mean. I don't really care if it's rainy or not, right? I think you're going to get a ridiculous ass crowd, and it's going to be a damn good game. To answer your question there, Ed. South Carolina's a 4-year-old. You give an expensive toy. Give it to them so that they can break it just to play with the box that it came in. No, 4-year-olds will play with the box and say to hell with the toy. But with that being said, give me South Carolina and give me a heavy dose of Marshawn Lloyd. I think you have to get Josh Vann in the game. Jaheim Bell has to touch the ball. My man is on the back of a milk carton right now. Get him the ball. Keep the ball in the hands of your best players. Win that fucking game. It's not that difficult. Satterfield, do your job and win the game. Helping out for any Gamecock fan that listens. There you go. It's that simple. Just run the damn ball. Get Jaheim Bell involved.
Patrick said that Chad, Juan, and Goat all have an A in them. More coincidences, but he didn't mention that the A is the third letter. So there's also that.
My God, dude, it's just is this a fucking conspiracy? Like it's just all stacked on top of each other. I'm not even mad. Like this is impressive. It's impressive. It's impressive. I don't even know. I can't get over this. Back to the 75% have South Carolina handling Vanderbilt. So 25% think AJ Swan can get shit done. But we shall see. Kentucky, fresh off an ass whipping to Vols of Tennessee and Neyland, take on Missouri. This is the Bad Bowl, I guess if you want to call it that. I don't know how to feel about this game. Kobe, who you got in this game, sir?
I was actually really surprised when I saw the picks for this game. I think Missouri's defense has looked extremely well at times, and I think that Kentucky really just kind of has had a lot of hype from the media between Levis is the best quarterback in college football. He should be the number one draft pick. They're the team to beat in the East. All these different things, and it's like they had a chance to prove a lot of those things last week and got their ass whooped. So, to me, I think they bounced back this week, though, and I think Kentucky beats Missouri. But I'm just not sure about it.
All right, Juan, you going with Chad, I guess?
No, we're going to have to suspend him from the chat.
I'm not so fast, Chad.
Yeah, not so fast. Yeah, I got to go with Kentucky. I think that they're going to bounce back. I think they were embarrassed. I mean, really embarrassed, and I think that they're going to bounce back, and they're going to pull this one out.
62% of the brigade has Kentucky, and so will I choose the Wildcats. If we all go down, Kobe, Juan, if we go down, we're all going down together on this one. I'm not losing any more ground on this one. You laugh, Santa Claus. Can't do it. Can't do it. I'm hurt, dog. Don't ask me if I'm all right. Joaquin said dominate, and I ain't doing it. You like the little reference there? I'm just saying that I ain't gonna lie though, that shit will get you running through a brick wall though. Miami or whether it's Miami or not, that shit will put you through a brick wall. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Well, I don't know how to feel about this either. Auburn and Mississippi State. My God, Brian Harsin is gone. Cadillac Williams is your interim head coach. Also, fun fact, first African-American head coach for Auburn, if anybody's interested. Love those kind of things, honestly. However, you have Mississippi State on the road to start off your tenure as interim head coach. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Kobe. What say you?
I think you can expect Auburn to see a lot of ground and pound from Auburn this week. I think former running back, head coach, you have a running back that's great. You've been playing a quarterback that's a run-heavy quarterback. I mean, I would think that you would run a lot of true read option, a lot of, maybe a few swing passes out of the backfield as like to supplement the run. But I just think it's going to be too much for Auburn to play at Mississippi State. Mike Leach, dial it up. I think Mississippi State still gets the best of them. I think Auburn plays inspired playing under Cadillac, but I just don't think it'll quite be enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. Juan, the Lighthouse, what do you got? Shine your light of wisdom.
Yeah, I like the hot seat bowl. That cracks me up. But Chad and I have Chad has righted his wrongs, and I'm going with him. I'm going with the other Bulldogs, the Mississippi State.
The Great Value Bulldogs? Okay,
Yes,
got it.
the Great Value.
Listen, yeah. Auburn made the right move. How much it's costing, I don't think it matters. Don't overlook the coaching search. Play inspired, let these kids play, right? I just don't know if it's enough. Cadillac's in over his head right now. I think you see the inspiration make for an interesting game. I just think that Mississippi State pulls it out on the road. Cadillac, I'm not saying he's a bad coach, damn good player back in the day for Auburn, but at the same time, I just think it's too much right now. Who's to say that? Listen, as much as I have Mississippi State, so does the Brigade at 83%. It wouldn't shock me to see these kind of underdog stories where just the team plays super inspired. They woke up feeling the cheesiest coach. Shit happens.
Cheese.
I woke up feeling the cheesiest coach. Y'all talk about the hot seat bowl. Why don't we talk about the bottom of the SEC bowl? Give me Florida versus Texas A&M. God, this is Bedlam, if you will. Yeah, fuck Bedlam. This is Bedlam. Florida coming off of ass whipping at the cocktail party. A&M coming off of fourth straight loss, losing to Ole Miss in a close one. I really wish we didn't have to pick this, but I feel like we need to cover the SEC, so we have to include them. It's literally like the two orphans that you didn't really care about, but they're there. It's like the kid down the street that thinks he's involved in everything, kind of shit like that. With that being said, Kobe, who you got in this one?
This may be the give me my checkbook bowl right here when it's all said and done. But I have a classic for everyone again for my pick. Give me the Gators to beat Texas A&M. They're just awful. They're awful. I can't. If I couldn't pick a team that lost to Marshall, I can't pick a team that lost to App State. I can't do that. Now, last week against Texas A&M, was I really pleased with how Wegman played? Yeah, I think he threw the ball for like 400 yards, 3 touchdowns as a true freshman. Do you finally maybe have your quarterback that could take the Aggies somewhere with this recruiting class? Yes. Do I think it was a really smart move to go ahead and start playing him, even if it's burning his red shirt this year? Yes. He needs all the game experience he can get because the weight of your program and possibly Jimbo Fisher's job is going to be on his shoulders at the beginning of next season.
$85 million sounds cheap after 4 straight losses like that. But you don't lose 5. Brenton Cox got dismissed from the team. Gators physically broke them bitches. They're going to Kyle Field at noon kickoff. As much as I hate to see that offense do what it does because it's so outdated. It literally won. I think you may have ran that offense in college. I still think they have the athletes with A-Chain, Evan Stewart to cause the problems for A&M to win this game. I don't see them losing 5 straight. I just don't. However, if they do, it's a win-win for me. I'm going Aggies, and so is the Brigade here.
Well, I like same with Kobe. Kobe just talked about Wegman, the freshman. I think they're going to rally behind him. I think that they're going to be excited. They're going to come out refreshed, only to lose to Florida. So give me the Gators.
Well then, there we go.
I like Chad with the Texaco A&M. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. That oil.
Anyways, now we're talking some real good fucking football. Y'all ready for this, folks? Alabama, LSU in Baton Rouge, night game, right after the game that we're going to do next. This could be interesting. Kobe, who do you have in this game?
We talked about earlier. I was right out the gate before the show started. I was talking about how mad I was. If the one thing that made me the most mad from the rankings last night was seeing LSU at 10 at 6-2, because all I feel like it is an opportunity for the playoff committee to give Bama a top 10 win on their resume, because they're one of the only, when you look at Tennessee, when you look at us, when you look at them, Tennessee and us have a top 10 win, but Bama doesn't. Well, all of a sudden, you beat LSU. They were a top 10 team when you beat them, whatever. But that being said, for the old reasons of trying to catch and beat Juan in the playoff, in the predictor, I took LSU in this game with a little upset of the Crimson Tide.
So you definitely don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide. Anyways.
I'll say, you know what? LSU has kind of shocked me. They've been playing some really, really good football. I didn't think that they'd be able to beat Kentucky. They are they look like a new team. Playing at LSU at night is just insane. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. So that fan base, they're going to be rocking. They're going to be excited, all just to see LSU lose. Give me Bama.
Damn, you cold fucking blooded with that.
Cold-blooded.
Bang, bang. Unity. No, in all seriousness, listen. Just don't know what LSU team is going to show out. This is the perfect game for the good LSU and take a win, right? Take a win off, take a win from Alabama. I just don't know. I think you see Bryce Young have probably the game of the year, probably his moment of the year in Baton Rouge. Let's just say this, I've got Alabama, so does 76% of the brigade. It's going to be a good one, folks, regardless. It's going to be a good one. We'll leave it at that. Now, moving on to our game of the year, probably for that matter, Tennessee and Georgia, 3:30, CBS, Athens, Georgia. What a week, man. What a week of college football, for that matter. But with that being said, Juan, I'm going to let you take over.
Yes, sir.
Wait, oh, my God. Oh, my God. It's the incredible book. Oh, my God.
Swolders!
I had to get it from my man Rudes. I had to get it for him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's go.
I think Rudes is Randy right now. Just going to leave that there. Just going to leave it there.
This is the game of the year. This is the absolute game of the year. It's going to be the one that everybody's going to be tuned into. Everybody's going to, if you're not going to be there, you're going to be somewhere watching it. It's going to be insane. Give me Georgia.
If you're not going to be there, you're going to be at the house counting the money from the tickets you sold to let somebody else go.
I didn't have a ticket.
Yeah, give me the dogs. It is what Kirby built this place to be. It is the prime time game. It's 1 versus 3, 1 versus 2, whatever poll you want to look at. It's the game of Kirby's career so far for a regular season game. It's the best.
I was about to say.
We played in 2 natties. It's not that big.
I'd say like, damn.
But it just gives you an opportunity to say that, what Heupel is doing is great, and it is. He's turned Tennessee around in a way that I think no fan in the East could have thought when they got caught with the cash in the McDonald's bags. I thought they were about to put them under Neyland Stadium there for a while. But I think that you're just going to be surprised that he still has a better grip on the East than you think. But we'll see. They put on their pants, they strap up their helmet. We'll see who the better team is on Saturday. And, even if that's us, just saying we were the better team on Saturday doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's just like the Bama Tennessee. Just because they were better on that given Saturday doesn't mean I think they're better than Alabama is. That's what the great thing about college football.
I'll tell you what, the Athens environment this week and in this stadium, predicting it now, I'm calling it to be probably double what we thought Arkansas would be. I think even the 2019 Notre Dame game, Notre Dame game gets put to shame this week. It's a rivalry for that matter. You have, however you look at it, right? Like we talked about this earlier, number one versus number two, number one versus number three, right? And number one versus three, you're on the opposite end of that. So you could look at it in a sense of you've got the number one team in the country coming to your house as number three. This is a playoff game if I've ever seen one in the regular season. The last time I saw a playoff game or a championship type game was '09 Bama LSU. That simple. Just that simple. With that being said, both teams have cases to win this game. I can't go with Tennessee in this one. I think the environment. Listen, you can tell me that the crowd won't have that much of an impact. Bullshit. The rankings could be some extra fuel there. Ed has Tennessee up 49-20. At 29 being 49-20 Vols. Ruth is dropping 38-17. With that being said, though, I have to go with Georgia here. And so does the Brigade, 81%. Kobe, you have this score 38-28. Georgia, explain your score, sir.
I just think at some point, Kirby ran that defense at Alabama for a long time, and we all know that. And one thing about it is he knows how to make adjustments, and he learned from one of the best about how to make adjustments, pregame, halftime adjustments, kind of the whole thing. And he watched that man not make the proper adjustments against this team earlier this year. He saw what they ran. They run the same style of defense that we do. So he saw what defenses Nick has ran against them for success, or with the big Jalen Hyatt touchdowns. I think we're going to give up some plays. We have a young, inexperienced DB core. You saw it with Starks last week. You're going to have some mental mistakes, but I just think that sooner or later you're going to be able to constrict their ability to run the ball, and then you're going to have to make them make plays in the passing game. And I think you catch a couple breaks. I mean, that's the truth too. It's going to take a break to go your way here and there. You look at Tennessee beating Bama. It took a break on a pick to seal the game for Bama. There being a penalty for Tennessee to win. I mean, it's just the truth in big time games. Sometimes things just have to roll your way.
One, we'll bring it over here for your pick here. You have 31-30 in a nail biter, I'm assuming. Explain your score, sir.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an excellent game. I think it's going to go back and forth. I see Georgia having the lead late, 31-24. Tennessee will come down there. They're going to score. Knowing Heupel, he wants to go for two. And then, that defense, we're going to hunker down like we do, bow our backs and necks, and we're going to make that stop. We get out of there 31-30.
I want to throw something out. I'm surprised you didn't throw 19-22 out there, honorary score.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, listen, I've got, like I said, I got the Dogs winning, but I got 41-35. It's going to be a high-scoring game. It has all the writing on the wall to be a high-scoring game. But at some point, you're going to have to stop the opposing offense, right? And I think Georgia gets it done. And this game could be 50-49. I don't know, right? It can be super high of a score. The thing is, I don't trust that spread, 8.5 point spread, at all this week. I don't trust it at all. It's going to be close. And I'm okay for that, right? But like I said, 41-35, I had to go with it. And I don't honestly might not even feel that comfortable with it, but I think that's a reasonable score. Rudes see the way the light from the window gleams off of, emphasizing the right shoulder. Too much for Rudes to handle. You got Rudes worked up. Can't help it. Listen, you work out, Kobe.
I need to hit
Swolders works.
in bed.
You need it. Not.
Little
Don't
pale
do that
right
too.
there.
A pale L right there, right? With that being said, obviously those are our picks of the week. One announcement before we wrap this thing up. Make sure, obviously, if you're familiar with it, Monday and Wednesday for our live show. But Wednesday, November the 11th, is Veterans Day. And with that being said, we will be doing our second annual Veterans Day show. And we're going to be donating to the Gary Sinise Foundation. So all donations, if any are made, will go to the Gary Sinise Foundation. And I will go ahead and say that we have a huge special guest. Rusty Manziel from 24/7 Dogs 24/7 will be joining us as we talk. Who knows what? That's to be determined. But looking forward to having Rusty join the show. Listen, I guarantee you, we're going to talk dog football, and Bojangles will be involved somehow. I'm just going to leave it there because me and Rusty are some damn fiends for some Bojangles because it's always bow time. Just going to leave that there. So mark that on your calendars. We'll put the show times here in a little bit as well. Let's wrap this thing up. Kobe, Swolders, incredible bulk. Tell us what your final takeaways from this game. Final thoughts before we wrap this thing up.
Just be excited. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. Sometimes Georgia fans, you get, Twitter and all these other fan bases get you twisted sideways all week about, oh, what happens if Tennessee beats you? Oh, what happens if you lose? Oh, all these things. It's like, it's one of the biggest games Georgia's ever played, in Sanford Stadium. Enjoy it for what it is. So,
Juan, what do you have to say before we wrap this thing up?
Hey, we're going to show why we're elite. Kirby said it, and I always say it. You're either elite or you're not, and we're going to show you why we are elite.
I have one thing I need to say, and I need to ask a question. Rouge, do you like Deer Park or Dasani? Because you need some water, sir. You worked up. You look like you break a sweat. We'll have to hook him up with some water. But no, Saturday's going to be electric, regardless if you're watching at home or in the stadium. If you're in the stadium, please be as loud as you can. Sound like me when you leave, or worse, don't have a voice, right? If you have a voice, you're doing it wrong, right? Hell, I might be at the house. I'm not going to be able to make the game, but I'll probably be at the house, lost my damn voice again. Just going to leave that there. So come out, come prepared, cheer on the Dogs on the road to the college football playoffs. With that being said, stick around for Monday. We'll catch you back live Monday. Thanks for the brigade for showing out. As always, it's a pleasure having y'all in. The best brigade there is. No questions asked. YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe. If you're listening to this, follow us, subscribe, leave a review, and it goes a long way for the show. With that being said, enjoy the game Saturday, folks, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.